I call this special extension in Morrow County, the order. And, okay, first I want to just do a little intro on some things, and then I'll kind of go over what I have in mind for this. So that's the one that asked for this. I'll kind of go over what my thoughts are, like what everybody should know. And I know talk about this. The nitrate problem is big, of course, we know that. There's a lot of work to be done. There's a lot of money that can be spent. And I know there's been talk about it amongst the county, amongst the staff, amongst us, but it's big and it's complex. And I was just getting the feeling that we're kind of backing into this. So I don't know how you guys feel. And on something this big and this important, I kind of feel like we need to set a goal or goals and then talk about the methods we're going to use to achieve those goals and get a plan going. That's the way I like to work. Talk about costs, talk about what roles everybody's going to play, and then move that way. So that's why number one I wrote this proposal, which I'm not reading, and then also asked for this meeting because I think we need something if the county is going to be involved. First off, I guess I asked the commissioners here. We never did really officially say, do you guys want the county to have some role in this? I mean, I'm not asking to say what that role is, but I mean, we're not mandated to do anything.
Are you talking about the nitrate issue itself?
No.
Or the consortium?
Well, here's what in the proposal is, we've settled on the fact on a narrative that there's three parts to the nitrate. There's the number one or low, which is what Robin's handling and his health department, immediate water to the people. That's the low, that's being taken care of. Number three, I call it the upper, is the long-term nitrate in the Wagwama. And I look at the Wagwama as handling that. There's the mid, which is how to get clean water permanently to the people. And the 1,000 wells, or as many as we're able to do with this. And I say we, because we got to, I want to hear that. But in the middle, what do we do there? So that's kind of what we're focused on. You know, what I want to talk about, because we're not really tackling. We've already got it's got the lower part taken care of. The upper part is the one we've been working on. So I guess that's number one step I want to say. We're not mandated. We don't have to. Nobody, the DEQ didn't come to us and say, hey, this is your problem. You didn't create it.
I fear we don't.
Okay, that's all I wanted. I agree with you. It's important.
It's important to, I think you expressed before, the county's role in this can be is, you know, we have certain levels of expertise in different staff. And we're also the people that can go apply for grants and funding and apply with political pressure rather than state or federal too. That's exactly, yeah, the help and that we need to help the citizens of the county. And, you know, and we are represented or elected as representatives for the county. So, you know, we're doing our part to help these people that are affected by this get a long-term solution in place. So I think there's a role for the county. What that role is to be determined.
That's what I wanted to hear. So we've established that the county is going to have a role somewhere. Okay, so then next in this meeting, I hope we define that role or get to the course with everybody's input. So quick, I want to read this. I don't know if all of you read it, but I'm going to read it real quick. Clean Water Consortium presenting on infrastructure projects in Morrow County. As we move forward with the proposed water infrastructure project at West Glen, I believe our thoughts and plans should include where the county's future efforts are headed. As we become more and more involved with important infrastructure projects, I would like to see us develop a sustainable long-term structured process to complete not just West Glen, but also another project, then the next, until our citizens have been provided access to clean water. The following is an outline of how that structure and process might look. So, number one, form a clean water consortium. Form a consortium between the county and the Port of Morrow dedicated just to completion of actual water infrastructure projects. Below is a summary of how that consortium might be constructed and function. Purpose. The purpose of the consortium would be to cause drinking water related infrastructure projects to be planned, financed, and built in Morrow County's lower Umatilla Basin groundwater management area. Forming this consortium would create a vehicle for Morrow County to move forward with multiple future water infrastructure projects currently being identified by GSL Water Solutions. The consortium would develop and carry out methods and plans to finance and construct these water infrastructure projects. The consortium would also handle legal and intergovernmental matters needed to complete diverse infrastructure projects. The consortium structure. The consortium would be modeled with some changes after the current broadband consortium successfully operating now in Morrow County. See the attached IGA, which I attached this email for some of you. It will be formed through an intergovernmental agreement between Morrow County and the Port of Morrow. One major difference, however, would be that the consortium would not commit to owning or operating any of the water systems or improvements created by its projects or actions. The consortium would be governed by a board of directors consisting of the following. Both the port and county would appoint 2 of its officials to serve on the board. And the appointed members would appoint 1 person to serve on the board in an at-large position. Each member would serve at the pleasure of the appointing entity. One of the board members would be voted as the chair of the committee. I think that Tamara should be one of the county board members, and probably Roy, because he's our water guy, and that we should push for her to be chairman. And the reason why is I think Tamara has, and I'm going to go through why I think everybody. What Jeff said. What is our strength? What are we contributing? Tamara has, I said it the other day, she's got a great Rolodex. Okay, some of the younger people probably don't know what that means. That means she's got a lot of contacts. Yeah, Robin said.
Oh, I do. I don't know.
No, she got a lot of contacts in the state. She knows a lot of people. She's been working real good with our grants for GSI. I think, as chairman or on that board, at least, you can't tell somebody how to elect a chairman, but I think she needs to be on there for the county. Okay. And then 2 from the board and 1 applicant. Okay. The consortium would be managed by a professional staff person chosen by the board, similar to Nick Jeff knows. And I would recommend County Administrator Matt Jensen be approached to do this job. His management and governmental skills and experience will provide the consortium with the stability to accomplish multiple tasks and projects. The county finance officer, Kevin Hines, would be asked to handle the finances. His staff, his tools and knowledge would make sure the receipt, administration, and accounting of grants and funds are done correctly and within the law. And to me, I think he's proven that. And we've provided him with new software and staff, and he seems to be able to handle multiple different grants, different kinds, and he's kept us all out of trouble. But because I envision when I get the finance part here, I envision different kinds of sources, federal grants, state grants, hopefully private money, maybe some fines from, these are all kinds of different funds hopefully coming into this consortium. And who knows what kind of accounting and management they require. But I think Kevin is a good person to handle this. He just seems to be able to pick this up. Anyway, okay, financing. Outside of minimum seed money, and the reason I put that is because of the broadband, we did put some seed money in for that as a board did. How much that is, or if you want to do that, we can talk about it. The 2 entities of the consortium would not contribute financially toward the cost of the actual construction projects. Money for construction will come from government and private grants. Once projects are identified by GSI and taken on by the consortium, grants would be applied for at both the state and federal levels. Private businesses would all be approached. As an example, the Morrow County Broadband Consortium received a $500,000 grant from Amazon Web Services. The money was received, in my view, what I heard, because AWS was confident, its donation was going towards actual broadband construction costs. And here I want to throw in is, the reason I keep going to the broadband is, Jeff, and I think he can speak to this, we see it actually happening. I mean, you know, in fiber, I think they call it pulling wire, is that correct? When they start doing an IT project. Here we might not say actually laying pipe. Well, they're getting ready, we're getting ready on broadband to apply for a $3.5 million grant. We have engineering for a project right down mainly in this area here. We have it laid out, we have it ready to go, we need the cost. We can start pulling wire for actually doing construction, which is very encouraging to people.
I'm hearing from somebody online that they're having trouble following, so I don't know. Are you able to share this?
Yeah,
So people can keep read it or no?
Valerie, does anybody have this email to them?
Yeah, I've got it.
Okay. And so I'm just
I don't
reading
know
out.
if that's it. Yeah.
Okay, once projects are identified by GLs with grants would be applied for at both state and federal levels. Private businesses, okay, we go on the money from AWS. I've also been told, and I don't know if this is still true, in the beginning, when the emergency was first declared, there was money to private businesses that wanted to contribute but never had the opportunity. Since then, I don't know if they've had, that they might be approached again, or they might be approached to donate additional money. But we would be able to assure them, okay, your money is going to actual mitigation. This project, this is what it's going for. And I think when businesses see that, it stimulates. Okay, once the companies know their money was actually physical construction, they can step forward and contribute funds to it. That's just my feeling. Business and government support would be noted in the media and recognized as clean water to the people. That's why I suggest following it. Clean Water Consortium for drinking water in Morrow County. Very clear. If they gave a donation, who it went to, what it's for. Okay. Disencouraging message would bring needed positive publicity to all involved, which would be good to our area. It has been noted that the court, I don't talk about that because it's about the fine. We don't know what the story is on that. I'd like to see that fine from DEQ be able to be brought back and spent. I've heard, it's been noted that the Port of Morrow is prohibited from participating in the distribution of funds collected from their recent and possible future Department of Environmental Quality fines. Perhaps this fine money, this is something legal might be able to work with, or try to talk to the DEQ and say, hey, you know, let's do a workaround. Could be allowed to come to the consortium since it would be like a legal entity separate from both the port and the county. Conclusion: the county becoming involved with actual water infrastructure projects is the right thing to do. But let us contribute to this effort along with the port, our greatest assets: knowledge, management, finance. That's just like Jeff said. That's what we know how to do. We don't know how to do infrastructure. However, this would be our in-kind donation to this. If the port's involved, which I really think they should be, I think they should be in the middle of this, you know, but they need to be part of this. They do infrastructure. Their income contribution would be just like they have at other places. They do some actual work, move some dirt, take some, you know, that's what they do well. We provide the finance, the knowledge, the management, and maybe those in-kind contributions could be used towards grants. I don't know. But that's the way I would like to see it. I think that's using the best of our ability to get things done. Okay. As many of you have already stated, and we just talked about, the consortium's area of focus will be the middle problem, not short-term. That is the state and our health department domain, not long-term. That's where we're going. We work in the middle, helping bring permanent water to the people of Morrow. So, and I talked with legal, Gregory, and Justin. You know, I keep bringing up the broadband consortium. I'm not hung up on IGA consortium. I said, you know, I said, would you guys think about this prior to this meeting? And if you can think of a better legal or another legal body that would better accomplish our goals, I'm fine with it, like I keep, go back to again, as long as we know our goal, the vehicle to get there is not important to me. Whether it's a consortium, an IGA, a nonprofit, I don't really care. It's all of us agreeing that this is where we want to get to. So. I guess that's kind of, and spelling them is kind of, I spelled out where I think, and Jeff just kind of reinforced what I feel, where the county's strengths are, what our contribution to this is. And define it in that manner, stay in touch with you out. So that's something that's. And before we go on, here's what I'd like to do when I have the camera to be here with GFI. They're gonna be here too. Something is I want us to talk about this, and then of course it's going to be tied in with GSI, and you have to talk about their timelines, but maybe hear a report from legal, hear a report from Matt, and then hear the report from GSI. Maybe try to put this whole thing together. And at some point after the recall election is over, approach support with the package and say, okay, here's what we're thinking. Either go to the court, executive, and maybe Joe Taylor separately, or go to the board, in front of them as a whole and say, okay, here's what we got. What do you guys think? How about the end part of it? So the county's not out here bone range with this by ourselves. I don't think that's right. I don't think it's fair. So that's kind of what I had in mind today, was that scenario, And I don't think it's fair to go to them before the recall. We might be gone to 23rd. I mean, I can be blunt. I don't mind doing it, And it's not fair to go to the courts and try to get them to sign on to a project as long as until we know. But if we're gonna be here, I'd like to pursue it, whatever package we come up with. Me and Matt has already agreed to go with me, or we tour any of you guys. But you can go with that, you're a word, and talk to them and see if they can get them on, But don't do it for the recall, because the next group in might not do anything. So, okay. Somebody else can talk. Matt, what do you think? You want to start it off, or maybe legal? What do you think of our?
Greg and Justin discussed a bit about the formal documentation and that organization. I'm defer to him, and then I'd like to administratively talk about a couple options and pros and pitfalls of each of them. So,
sure. I guess kind of my primary concern is, at least regarding involvement in the port, is are we going to be able to recoup the fines from DEQ? So I guess if we're going to go about it that way, I think, well, there's a few ways to do this. One is an IGA, which, fairly straightforward. We sign up with the port. Second, we could set up a nonprofit. I'm not an expert in nonprofit law, but I've worked with attorneys who do it. That would take more time. You gotta, depending on the amount of revenue you're receiving each year, you've got to certify yourself with the IRS, and the IRS moves slow, so that's not a fast solution. So I think the IGA would be the quickest. It'd be pretty easy to hammer out. I guess my concern is if we're going to involve the port, we should probably get tentative approval from DEQ before we do that. Because I don't know what amount of the fine they're talking about coming back to the county, but if we're talking, $500,000, hundreds of thousands of dollars, that could go a long way towards developing some of these projects. So I guess that's my initial concern. The second, in terms of the county kind of leading the effort, we'll probably get more into this. I've had some preliminary talks with Tamara and the planning department about it, but in terms of getting water to people, we've talked about, people use the term local improvement districts. For counties, when you're outside the city limits, you're looking at a special district or a county service district. So the special districts, like rural fire rescue departments, there's a bunch of them. You can do a water supply district, you can do a sewer district, you can do a combined district. So that's one option. So special districts are normally led by members within that district. So they nominate a board and they vote on that board every so often. The other option is a county service district, which was gonna encompass the same kind of services, but it's county led. So it'd fall directly under, the BOC, it'd be like we almost have to open another department. I think kind of depending, well, for West Glen, talking West Glen in particular, since that's kind of the low hanging fruit here. As I understand it, we have roughly 100 homes. I'm not really sure if they can sustain a special service district kind of on their own. I would think that, the county would have to be involved in providing guidance and making sure maintenance was done, but quickly,
Is that detoured by the urban zone?
you can have a county service district within the But we would have to secure the water rights from either the port or the city, and as I understand it, the city's open to giving us water rights. So that's kind of my initial thought. I know we're kind of at the preliminary phase, but before we move forward on involving the port or involving the IGA or, drafting an IGA, we should talk to DEQ beforehand and make sure that they're okay with that. And, maybe they say, hey, the port can be involved. We just can't have any of their directors on the board that's overseeing this. So I think it makes sense. It's just want to make sure we clear that by DEQ so we don't end up losing pot money.
Whatever, so, we want to.
Administratively, I think there's several ways to approach this. First off, the consortium, I do have the concern, I echo the concern that Greg said, if we have an opportunity to get us SCP money from the fines that the port is paying, and that might jeopardize it with having that relationship. I would say we need to be cautious about who we're considering partners. And so before we go to the port, we want to get at least a good determination from DEQ on what the possibility is for that. And we can definitely work in that direction. The other option is one of the goals of the consortium is to enable and give us boots on the ground to help hit this issue, which none of the agencies at this point have been able to do. I mean, they deliver water, they test, but we aren't figuring out solutions. The county is positioned and is the local entity in order to be able to do that. And so we need to be there. I question the port, while they do have some expertise and infrastructure on that. They're an economic development zone, not a community development zone. So that's a different type of picture on things. And my only one consideration with that is with the current lawsuits. We're doing this consortium to kind of buffer and protect the county. With them as a partner, does that pull us in? So I just have a question on that, and I don't know if council would want to weigh in on that, because it just so I want to make sure our shield doesn't end up being a spear through our heart.
So the port has done some community, so like in Iowa, they put the water system in for the residents, so they have done some.
They have done some.
Just to bring that out. They have done.
But they themselves say we're economic developers,
Yes.
not community developers. They do it because of the void, the vacuum that's there. And because certain board members live in some places. No, they do good work every place. Sorry, tongue in cheek. As we look at this, this is something the county could take on by itself. We haven't. Morrow County hasn't. Other counties throughout Oregon and throughout the United States have. It is a definition of the role of the county, and that's up to this body to determine. And so whether we wanted to do it as a county or as a consortium, this is well within our purview as a county government, looking after the public health and safety and drinking water of our residents until they become incorporated and we let the cities do it. My question, I've had a little bit of discussion with Dave on this, is since we're talking about nitrate waters, particularly in and around the areas of Boardman and Oregon, having them in as some kind of partners on this consortium, just because a lot of them, they're going to be saying, giving us a thumbs up, thumbs down, and having a representative on there. I wouldn't say they're equally weighted though. I would definitely say if we expanded where their consortium was right now, I'd give them kind of a half vote or, a single vote each, and then the port and, the county have multiple votes, 2 or 3 each. Just to say, because we're dealing with unincorporated area, we need to balance that out, but give them an opportunity to participate, since a lot of times it's impacting them, or we're getting them for resources. Having a little bit of buy-in from them during the planning process, instead of doing all this planning process and having them just turn around and say, no. I think it could be good to have them as part of it. Greg mentioned having a separate department. This, if we wanted to go through here, I wouldn't say it would necessitate an additional staff member. This might be a place where we do want to look at a county engineer, or at least a short-term contracted engineer, to be here and to help manage a little bit of the projects once we get to the project level, and just be, kind of like the project manager we have for the circuit court. We can do a lot of work with the staff, but when we get down to the, laying pipe, we might want someone who's a good civil engineer or hydrological engineer who can be there to manage some of that aspects of it. But that's something that can be worked out with the consortium once it's created. And so those kind of resources and that. Just seeing the news releases from the state and from, and some of the questions we have on Leviquama, I'd love to have some kind of body where we can take to Governor Kotek and say, here's our solution. Work with us and we will be the boots on the ground. Too long, this has been something that's just been passed on. We know the nitrates are there. They've been there for a long time. I don't know if we'll ever be able to fix them. But we can work to present and have organized solutions that can be subsidized through grants, state, federal levels, that we can help our residents, and we can be part of the solution, and not just saying, not our monkeys, not our circus kind of thing, but we know a few of the plans. We want to get away from that, and not say that we take ownership of it, but that we can help be a funnel to affect some of the funds and projects that could be approved on. Right now, there's a lot of looking, a lot of testing, not a lot of solutions coming into place.
Okay. I will tell you what my concerns are with the county doing this. Number one, it does become us.
It does.
And people will be here in front of us saying, why haven't you got this done? Because we're gonna be the only one. The other thing I see is, okay, they were already talking about adding staff. So we're shouldering more of the financial burden there. And then also I can see maybe a project getting close and going, oh man, we have $1 million cost overrun. We can't finish this project. Well, why don't we just go over here and take $1 million out of the county capital fund? See, I don't think that's fair. I don't think that's right. And I wonder about private businesses donating money directly to the county government. I'm not sure about that. See, it seems easy, I think, just to say, well, let's just do it ourselves and we don't have to deal with anybody, DEQ. But I'm particularly want a bunch of people here going, this is your project. Now, no, I want it to be, I think, the Port of Morrow. And we would approach them and ask them, of course, that's what we do. But I think we ought to have a package and say, hey, here's how we've done it. You're doing it with the project. You get involvement with the other entities in the county. Granted, I know their development, but this isn't community. This is a development. This is what you do in a development, put an infrastructure. They did it down at Ione at Heritage. They've done it for the Ione School. They're committed $500,000 right to our circuit court building. See, so I'm really wary of the county taking it on, because then all of a sudden it's just all ours. And I don't think we deserve that, or it's fair. So I think other people, and one thing we could do, and I think it's talked about this is, if you look at credit 3, when they have its own divinity, maybe with the IGA, we have something, let's say, that's similar, okay, we're close to board and not just have an idea, maybe they wouldn't have full standing. Maybe they would, maybe they wouldn't, but they would be brought onto the board. Then if the solution moves through, if the hotspot that you have a map here moves nearer to Irrigan, that would be, we would pull in the city of Irrigan and say, hey, can you guys think about here? Because I think when we develop our whatever it is, whatever kind of legal entity, or if you do something like so, you gotta remember, this is not about West One. I mean, it is, that's what kicked it off, but it's about, there's, I think I was told once, there's 70 wells in West Glen, and there's 1,000 in Oklahoma. This is about all the West Glens. What about the clustering of hotspot? What about the single guy out of now? You know, maybe the solution is to build deeper. Maybe it's to put better casing. You probably have to get around it. You know, I think you are long way. I've talked to some well people. I talked to Sam Bellamy quite a bit. He was telling me the different, but anyway, different solutions, different areas, and our legal entity, whatever that is, should be able to handle not just West, you know, get off of West Glen and think about the whole, you know, the next place, the next place, the next place. Set something up where we can keep going, maybe get 2-3 projects going.
And I agree with the only bringing in the cities if they're in here. Because we really don't need Irrigan telling us what to do at West Glen. We don't need Boardman telling us what to do with it. Wagon.
And neither one of them tell us what to do out here on that area that isn't been told to. And so, you know, it would give, and they could say no. It would give them the opportunity. You know, you want to be part of this solution, and maybe the city has access to grants that the county doesn't. I don't know. See that, you know, the unknowns, but I think if we set up the legal entity enough to be flexible enough, not just go, okay, West Plan, let's set up a deal to do this. You know, let's set up a deal to do. Oh, it's a big, all else account, the big, the small, maybe a small one. We don't know what we don't know until GSI gets us out there. So we don't know what we don't know.
And maybe we only can do what we can afford to do at the time.
Exactly.
It may just be a couple of singles to start with rather than a big project.
And there's the other thing about having a consortium. We just got done doing our budget. It's a legal entity, and you have public, it's a public meetings. They have a budget, just like the county has a budget. They know exactly what their money is, where it goes, where it comes from. It's separate from anything else, you know. It's, you know, you have to live within your means. In fact, we're looking at right now, you're looking at, can we afford to put money down to 1 or 2 people, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and now, if you have a consortium like this, it would force to do that, where you wouldn't say, okay, we're gonna do every, you know, because the county got all this coffer money, you know, there's, you know, there's, you know, stuck up all our capital improvement money and just get, you know, does that make sense? And because when you have the entity like broadband, it forces you to say, okay, make this tough choice. This is what we have to do. So. Any other thoughts? Because I went back and read the scope of work from GSI. And I hope they have some of these things today. Their timeline, I don't know how to, you know, I mean, we've got them talking about, you know, complete preliminary concepts for ultimate drinking water options, non-connection to PWS, public water systems, and complete data gap sampling by first quarter 2026. Well, that's almost 2 years away. And the other one is the first quarter 2025 for the recommended feasible PWS service and extension concepts, which would be what's feasible to hook up to public water systems first quarter 2025, which is too far away. But I just want to make sure that Tamara, who works tight with GSI and understands this stuff, you know, she would tell us, she's the go-between, she's the one that would tell us, you know, okay, GSI schedule, is going to, here's what we need from the consortium and to hook up at prep time. You see what I mean? Does that make sense? Schedule this, maybe GSI can come up with some single solutions. I don't know. I just don't know. Shared wells, if you got 4 or 5 people in one area with hot wells, everybody, lawyers hate shared wells, but maybe that's a solution, and maybe GSI could. Prior, you see, they would help with our scheduling. And, you know, does that make sense? And, you know, we would schedule with GSI because they're the ones that are gonna give us the heavy data in the engineering, right? Because when we have that joint meeting, I specifically asked them, are you going to attach costs to each one of your recommendations? Yes. Just like she sent the link the other day where the governor is talking to people about they want something done. So I asked Tara, could you write a proposal that says to her, okay, we are looking to put pipe in the ground with this project. This is not study, this is not test, this is actual projects. Before you go give some resources somewhere, please take a look at it, you know. But you know, they might say, well, how much is it? You know, she's gonna, I think her and Matt are gonna coordinate that, you know, to me, in my mind. And then Matt would, if it's part with the court, Matt would be the one to go talk to, is Mark Patton there?
Chief operating, he's the operating.
Yeah, he seems to talk about the actual infrastructure stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, so I can envision Matt, once we get the stuff from Josiah and China and we get that, say, okay, here's our next project. Because Matt, in the IGA, wouldn't say, okay, for tomorrow, you have to do X amount of you know, in kind. No, you can't, because you don't know. But he would go to them and say, okay, you guys committed to do in kind services. Would you do this? We're committing the brain, the finance, the knowledge, the management part. Would you commit to do this? No, we won't. We'll do this. Okay, and see and work that out. And then maybe there's a grant there to go, okay, here's our, like I'm repeating myself now. Here's our matching and these two things. But that would be something that would be handled on the fly, on the go, because we don't know where we're going. I don't think it's safe to say we don't know until GSI gets done. That's safe to say. Anyway, the fact, what I think what I'd like to do right now, if you guys don't say something else, is turn it over to them. Her GSI, just tell us what you think about this whole thing, or are we going down the wrong path, and we need to look at something else? What is your thoughts, Tony?
Thank you, Chair. Ronan is on the phone, and I handed out to the board a copy of this graphic that Stephen put together. And that's in your packet. This is not in your packet, but I did email it to you, Valerie, and that this is just this that I handed to you. And I'm wondering if you could pull that up on the website. Either one would be fine. And Ronan, how about if I take a shot at this and then you could, there he is, perfect, thank you. So commissioners, what we did internally, we just kind of moved it up our priority list a little bit, is to develop a graphic that shows all the different places and projects that the county is currently involved in to a greater or lesser degree. And you've heard me as a talking head talk about this. You've heard Commissioner Draco talk about many of these things, but I think the graphic is really helpful. So thank you, Valerie. They're both good graphics, but since Ronan's going to talk, I think it's more fair to bring this up. And I think if we just summarize this real quickly for context, it will help the discussion. So on the very top, that bar is the Love Gorma. That's the long-term, that's cleaning up the aquifer. It's been established since 1890. On the left-hand side, that sort of orangey bar is either the Water Consortium or Partnership Development was another name we gave to it. And then in the blue is the Water Advisory Committee. So that's a committee that GSI and Ronan staff. we've developed the briefing papers. I made you a paper copy of the drinking water briefing paper. You've seen those a couple of times and give us the nod to go ahead and post them on our website page. And again, the intent of that was to establish some truth, factual information that's either peer reviewed or published information. And kind of a guiding document, whether or not we've distributed that enough, I don't know, people have to also want to read it. And the Water Advisory Committee, it meets again on Monday. That will be, I think, our 7th meeting. We've heard lots of state agency presentations. We hear presentations on Monday from all 5 cities will be there. Just a snapshot on where they are with their water and sewer systems and needs and what it looks like in the future. Not an engineering level, but just so that we know. And then the 3rd bullet under the blue, the Water Advisory Committee or policy recommendations. And Ronan and his team, with my input, put together a list, and we'll be talking about that again. There'll be policy recommendations and also projects. And that's another place where we could consider a set of recommendations such as the Water Consortium or partnership development. So those policies right now look like, and these are also on the website. They look like things like, support cities when they need an expansion. And that might be writing an application for grant support. It's very high level general stuff, not set aside X number of dollars. That would come later. I could see us adding a recommendation that we set up some financial entity to be a conduit for funding for projects other than the county. That's not really on the list now, but your idea, whether we call it a water consortium or it looks just like that or something different, that can go in that project. So you jumped ahead of us, Chair Sykes, which is really great. It gives me reassurance that we're kind of heading in the right direction with the Water Advisory Committee. And then the 3rd bullet down is the drinking water services that Robin and her counterparts at the state are working on. And that's, at least in the near term, permanent, more or less.
It's gonna be ongoing.
Ongoing, yeah. And then the next bullet is in the EPA grants, and there's 2 boxes there, and we're currently in the process of what we call Congressional Direct Spending 1. And you're right, there's a lot of data collection. We've had a couple workshops, one on communication, one on data, but we're talking about stuff, we're not designing. And you're right, it looks like if you're able to adjust the screen a smidge, you can see on the very bottom, there is a dates, so you can see the continuum of those. Perfect, thank you. And so you're right, that bi-county research project will be finished in about 2026. We'll have some preliminary results soon, and Ronan can talk about that, or sooner than 2026. The other box is the Congressional Direct Spending 2, which you supported, we were awarded. We have to now apply for a grant through EPA. I'm not doing that in a vacuum by myself, but I'm working with Nick Ducote, who's our grant writer of record, who has done multiple of these in Eastern Oregon. Right now, we have a request into EPA to see if we can spend it for something other than studying. Can we actually spend it for engineering or capital projects? Or things like a test well for the city of Oregon, who has that on their capital improvement list to do a test well to look for another well that might be closer to the Arctic location. And we have kind of a ballpark figure for what that might look like, or a test well, which we've talked about numerous times. So we're told there's more flexibility in the second one than in the first one. That is really promising to me. So we're not continuing to plan and study and test. And then in the middle, on the very bottom, is what we call the West Glen first stop, which was Matt and I continued to work on that. We've had some other stuff involved in it as well. With Courtney Warner Kroll from the governor's office. When we contacted her and said, the board said, we're not going to own the problem, but provide some leadership. And given the situation with West Glen and its proximity, primarily within the UGB, et cetera, we'd like to explore options to provide water in advance of this EPA research project. They were very excited. She called all of her state agency folks. We met in Oregon. So we're calling that a first stop, which is a precursor to a one stop, which is a discussion about funding. So we have a lot of different initiatives that we're working on. But we don't have that format for funneling funds to make projects happen or creating a special district. And Daisy and I've met with Greg a few times to talk about that, LID, special districts, et cetera. So some structure to once, for example, we have the recommendations both from the Water Advisory Committee and from the EPA research project, we'll need to figure out what to do with those, other than by default, the county, it becomes a county issue. Ronan, please feel free to add to that.
Yeah, thanks, Tamara, and thanks, Commissioner Sykes and other commissioners. I mean, I think Tamara presented that graphic well in terms of covering all the points and all the kind of the main efforts and activities going on. There's some things there also that's not probably included. The one that comes to mind is, you know, Oregon State's doing some work, ODA is doing some work. So there's some other things going on related to the nitrate issues, but these are kind of the major ones I think that the county either has already some involvement or is actually leading the efforts. I would say when Tamara forwarded the I guess white paper or the summary, Commissioner Sykes, that you had prepared, it was encouraging to me in the sense that, like Tamara mentioned, the Water Advisory Committee, one of the outcomes of that was really to come up with some of the policy and sort of what the role of the county is going to play in all these efforts. And like Tamara mentioned, it you kind of jumped ahead of us in that process, but it was encouraging in terms of it helps the discussions within this Water Advisory Committee that were aligned, I think, in the place that we were looking at, like what is the role of the county, where are those opportunities? Those are the kinds of things that we're going to be laying out in the final work products here in the next few months, which we were going to present to the Board of Commissioners anyways. So we're having some of that early feedback, which is great. The other part is on the EPA grants project. I had heard the conversation around the timing and when are some of the work products and outcomes of the CDS phase 1, this EPA grant work, going to be coming. If you guys recall, the scope of work and the timeline is broken up into 4 stages. In the early stage, which is kind of we're in the middle of now, the first stage is to kind of launch the project, get the data pulled together, and then come out actually in the next, by the end of summer, our plan is to have a workshop that basically outlines, here's the options that folks have available depending on the situation or geographic area that these impacted well users are in. So some that are closer to public water systems, some that are clusters that are maybe further away, to basically list those options out. And we're going to go through a workshop like that in August. But as part of that effort and then additional data sampling that is hopefully planned for the fall, come out in early 2025 with the low-hanging fruit, sort of here's a project that makes sense for these areas with a focus on those public water system connections first. So there's kind of the first year of that CDS 1 effort is primarily on those public water system connections, and then the year 2 is going to be those other non-connection options. That's sort of how the timeline is laid out. But coming out into early 2025, the idea is to have some projects laid out and a preliminary sort of implementation plan, what we're calling a drinking water action plan, the first draft of that related to those public water system connections. So if there's a parallel effort in trying to figure out, what this, whether it's a consortium or the county or however that is going to look, if those discussions are happening and there's a path toward that can timing wise fit nicely into how that drinking water action plan is going to document basically how those things can be implemented. It'll just be part of that sort of work product and implementation planning process. So timing wise, I think that could work really well. However, whatever the path is, whether it's a county or some kind of consortium, or if those discussions are still ongoing, I think having that sort of in the works fits nicely with the implementation planning that's going to be going on under this EPA grant, early EPA grant work.
The one thing I wanted to, thank you, Vernon, Chair, if I might, that West Glen first stop. There's a whole lot more detail in that than might jump out at you. One of those things, at the very bottom, the SEP proposal, which Greg mentioned, that's the fine money, if you will, from the Port of Morrow. So we did submit an application to use the $570,000, $575. And that's been submitted to the DEQ. The port is supportive of it. Matt and I are still waiting to hear back from the DEQ. Oh, it's their enforcement division to see if we can use that. That's why when Greg said, not sure that the port can be part of this, because if we were to use that SEP money, so it's a supplemental environmental package or program for a local entity to have an actual project where you spend the fine from whoever the violator is, they have to keep a pretty clear arm's length distance.
They could not lay.
Yeah, that's right. They can't, and really, they can't be involved with the study,
Right.
et cetera. Yeah.
But I mean, even to the point where they couldn't help in the infrastructure.
I'm gonna question, who said they can't?
The legal team at DEQ, I assume. I mean,
Is
that's,
this ORS or, I mean, sometimes. I mean, you know, these things aren't maybe, you know, I don't know, maybe they're changeable, they're not written in stone, maybe this is a unique thing. You know, I mean, just because somebody at the DEQ says so, doesn't mean that you can't approach them and ask them and say, you know, because the whole thing's gonna be set up. And I'm gonna use the euphemism to get back to put pipe in the ground, let's get something done, which is what everybody wants. Okay, people, we're ready to put pipe in the ground. Can't you find a workaround and get this fine in there and that'll do it? Here's our engineering plan. Just like we have on the broadband, we have actual engineering plans laid out. Where is the fiber gonna go? Which ones are, you know, I mean, it's very detailed. You take that to DEQ or whoever, who is this person that's saying no and say, hey, you know, it's pretty tough. I think it would be pretty tough for them to go, no.
So I think to your point, Dave, maybe it was clear that they were doing in kind of trenching. And there wasn't any dollars coming from the consortium back to the port. I wonder if that would make a difference. If their in kind is their labor and the fuel to run an excavator out there and dig the trench. And put the pipe together, and the consortium is the SEP money to buy the pipe. You know, I just throw that out.
No, that's a good point.
That makes sense. The rule, the EPA, I mean, the DEQ rule is to keep them from getting the fine money back. Well, there you go.
That would be my.
You're on the way to a workaround. Yeah, I mean, to me, you know, let's just take
That's
our.
not
I
necessary.
think Tamara I think I heard her saying, was that part of their stipulated agreement from the Port of Morrow?
they
Yes, we-
have to approve whatever the project is, the SEP, but they cannot at all be involved in it. So I don't know where you color in the margins there. I don't know what that means.
That's what these guys will figure out.
Yep.
You know, what does involved mean?
Well, I mean, it's not even us. I'll be honest, it is somewhat, but talking to, this is an agreement not between us, more between the state and also the port. And so they had an agreement, just like negotiation, everything else, they say, we're okay with this. I think, but that, I would also agree that probably isn't set in stone. It's not a statute saying, oh, if there's a DEQ agreement, it shall only be this way. Probably not that clear, maybe an administrative rule, but maybe not that clear. So you're right in the fact of, when we go back to someone else, we ask and say, hey, here's our plan. I know your stipulated agreement says this, but here's our plan to do it. Can we still make this work? Because at the end of the day, it is an agreement between, my understanding, DEQ and the port. And so the port, everyone's gonna say, hey, we don't want to get in trouble. We have an agreement here. We can't violate this. As if you can get the okay from the state agency, say, yep, we're okay with that. That should be all right. And that would be more of a communication, having to touch base with them saying, here's our plan. Can we make this work? Just as you were talking about.
We have our goal. Plus, the other thing I would say is, what is that fine, 570,000?
This is the most recent one.
Yeah, what
Yes.
do you think next year is gonna be, any idea? Are we basing our whole, yeah, are we basing our whole plan and scenario on a 570,000? I mean,
Absolutely.
we shouldn't be.
Nope,
What do you?
it's just one,
What do you think, grant from the EPA or from the feds might be, one grant to put it up?
Well, if we have a project design and the other piece under the West Glen is Matt and I submitted a request to Business Oregon for two $20,000 engineering feasibility studies. Once we have that and we have a ballpark, then we can apply for grants. We have a ballpark of the overall cost. What we've heard from our congressional delegation is, give us a project, we wanna help with solutions. So I don't know that we put a ceiling on it. I think
Now,
there's,
see, so we should be focusing on 570,000 and go, okay, we're gonna have to base our whole thought process around that.
I don't think we are.
No, it's
No,
just.
not,
No,
we're not at
no, I'm
all.
just saying, if you say, okay, well, maybe we don't want to do a certain type of entity, consortium, whatever it is, because we can't bring the 570,000 into there, so let's do something else. See, I don't think that's rational. That's like tripping over, you know,
And Chair Sykes,
yeah,
I mean, in reality, the one that we've already applied for is gonna be well before the consortium's constructed. And if I know the port's trying, it has said we may have another one next year. They're trying to get it out, but you know, through negotiations and that, but so it would be just another one. So you're right, you know, saying no to the port or whatnot on $1 million compared to possibly getting a funding stream of multi-million dollars from federal and local is, you know, let's not trip
Yeah, I don't
over.
think you can base the consortium on the SEP.
Yeah,
No.
Yeah, and.
Right. I think that's what.
money's gonna be, states.
and if we separate them, I mean, saying this is a consortium project and this is the one-off SCP project that we need to. But that,
I mean, Ronan, can I ask you a question, Ronan? Do you remember when the SIA came up for the La Guama? Wasn't that, weren't they talking about that? Using the SCP for the strategic implementation area
For the Department of
for the Department of
Agriculture.
Agriculture. I thought they were actually looking at using the SCP money for that.
Uh,
Did I misunderstand that, Ronan? Do you remember that being what they said? That was one of the possibilities?
For the SCP funding you're asking?
Yeah, for the La Guama SIA, the Department of Ag was talking about at the last meeting we had.
I don't remember connecting that, but if you heard that, I completely think
I think I
right.
remember seeing that on a slide that someone. put up.
Yeah, I'm looking for it right now. I've got the slides up and I was looking for, I haven't found it yet, but I thought maybe Ronan remembered this.
From the.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I wasn't on that meeting.
Oh, it wasn't.
It was a Lub Guama one, right?
It was.
There are other entities, you know, looking at the SEP, but again, the DEQ and the port have to agree to it. Last time Commissioner Drago and I worked on a proposal with Ronan, the state. And the port was very supportive. We collaborated with Boardman. That was a year ago, maybe even, yeah, more than that. And the state ended up taking it all and went to OHA.
Yeah, and that's what they're using for the clean water, correct?
And the last time we heard a report from Gabriella, it's that all of that money, the 1.7 million is committed. The initial, or 1.3 million, the initial fine, I don't remember what it was, it's all committed to OHA. So they can apply again. Otherwise, it goes to general fund. So, and, I definitely hear your message, Chair Sykes. I don't think we thought about, we're just moving along with these different initiatives and hadn't really looked
No,
at
understood.
the clearinghouse for funding.
Yeah, no, you got-
And I think it does make sense to talk to the port to see how and when and why that would work, and maybe they don't need to be an initial partner, but they could be a contributor.
I guess kind of to that point, if we bring the port in, are we jeopardizing future grant funding? I mean, our agency's gonna wanna award money, whether they be federal or state, to a group with the Port of Morrow involved.
true,
With
too.
the litigation ongoing.
I think that's a
that as
very,
well.
that's a very true statement as well. Yeah, I think so.
I just don't think we should base all our whole scenario thinking, because the big money's not gonna be in that. And I mean, okay, maybe we get a project, engineering and everything, ready to go. There's $500,000 worth of pipe. Well, the county's public works, so give the 500,000 to the county's public works, and that pipe shows up on the job site. We avoid it, you know, I mean, you know, don't, I just don't wanna put our whole thinking into this basket, it's very, it's small. You know, all the small fine and thinks we have to do everything just to get that, when that's not where the big bucks are gonna be.
So I think, just to restate what Greg said, I think it's a bit of an elephant in the room. With the nitrate issue, we want to think about longer term implications. In addition to that immediate pot of money, are the federal agencies, are private businesses wanting to provide money to a consortium where the port is a partner? I mean, right now, the port is a pretty large target, aren't they? I mean, that's just saying it like it is. And so we might be better off having some sort of nonprofit or a county entity that has an arm's length distance from the port. Not that they wouldn't be supportive, I think they're very.
From the county coffers. Because I don't want people coming up and going, oh, well, we need a new staff person, or we need to dip in here and take a couple million, it's really that close to finishing this project.
Sure.
You know, and we got 5 million in the county capital improvement fund, it becomes our project.
Sure.
And we have people sitting here and saying, why aren't you done yet? You know, and political pressure on the county, and I don't think that's fair or right, or we should burden the county with that. Because number one, why is it us? We didn't have anything to do with creating it. Granted, we're here. I mean, but the port's here, they're countywide. I mean, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I just don't know if that's my thought. I think you get that.
One additional thought, so when it comes to water quantity efforts. The analogy that I can think of that I know more about than I might others is 15 years ago, Umatilla County created a 2050 water plan advisory committee. We invited Morrow County to the table, by the way, and Morrow County said, no, go ahead and conquer. From that, the county, particularly West Umatilla County, when it came time, looked at projects, yes, we need to recharge, we quantified what all that water was. And then when it came time to implementing, which is what Ronan and I are anticipating with these efforts, it really, the county said, that's not the role we want to be in, the same as you are. So a nonprofit now, the Northeast Oregon Water Association was created, and they have members, lots of members, and Morrow County, what did we contribute the last several years, $6,000 or something, they do recharge
You gotta think, this is all done without political pressure. Put the political pressure that we've been seeing on this county for all kinds of things on top of your decision making. And pretty soon you've got monetary and construction decisions being made for political reasons. Not based on engineering, budgetary, and that type of thing. It just turns just like the pressure now is to make decisions politically. I mean, you know, recall, you know, all kinds of stuff. Make a decision that we want, or we'll recall you. You know, finish this project, spend this county money, or we'll, you know, whatever. It becomes, it's just hyper political on all the decisions that this group makes. And I mean, I'll just lay it out there on the table. We don't know it. I mean, you know, it's no secret. You know, we've been living it for a year. So I'm trying to set up. I want to see something set up that will remove the decision making from that type of thinking and put it, and that's why I go back to the broadband. I've seen us make these decisions based on budgetary, engineering, what makes engineering sense. Our administrator is real good. He's not, you know, he's not political, you know, Nick.
Oh, yeah, I do know.
Yeah, you know, he tells us, you know, what's going on, and he gets, you know, and that's what we're making, I mean, we're making our decision. You know, and we're not saying, well, we got an unlimited pot of money over here, we can pull in if our figures don't work out, or, you know, things don't have the way we've been thinking, we just do this. Because the broadband doesn't have the political pressure, see, so I'm trying to remove it from the political arena. And that's where I think you get things.
I think what Greg's saying is you involve the port and you probably make it more political.
I understand that.
Yeah, I guess my thought is not really sure there's a way to remove the county from taking driver's seat on this issue. So, you know, I guess
You have the county from what?
we're bleeding this issue in terms of.
Define meeting.
So, you know, if we set up say we set up a group to manage the money, so whether that be through an IGA, nonprofit, however we set it up. So this group funnels the money. You know, that group, if we're looking at small improvements, whether it be So we're drilling a new well for someone, or, we're gonna drill up a shared well and we'll get a surveyor out, do an easement, so forth. I think a group like that can handle that well, but when we start talking about putting pipe in the ground, delivering water directly to homes, at that point, you're essentially creating a utility. And so when we're outside of city limits, outside of the UGB, we're limited to, like I talked a little bit about earlier, special districts and county service districts. And so kind of a few different, I said Matt about a few weeks ago about this, but kind of a few ways you can set this up. One is you circulate a petition, so someone in the community says, hey, I want to set up this special district, it's going to provide water within this geographical area. So that's one way. But the problem with doing it that way for a project this large is they need to have the engineering work done and they need to have a proposed budget. So I'm not sure someone in West Glen could foot the bill for something like that. The second way is that the county essentially passes a resolution, putting it directly to a vote. So we have the engineering done beforehand.
Stop you just for a second. Now, your assumption is that this is totally a county project, not a consortium project.
I think if we're
As we keep saying, we're gonna put it out for a vote.
Because it's gonna be a utility.
I get it, but I'm just trying to make sure we're making the same connection here. Because, why the county has to have that, have that connection,
if we're delivering water or sewer, I think this one is talking about.
Don't necessarily have to deliver.
If an entity is delivering water or sewer outside of city limits, it's the county. So there are private utilities here in Oregon, they're kind of few and far between. I don't think we have any east of Bend.
The utility district is the county.
There are two ways.
Well, I know it can be, but he says we are delivering waters, so we is the county government. I thought a service district.
So,
necessarily
yeah.
connected to the county.
Correct. So the service district kind of technically falls under the county, but they're self-managed. A county service district, on the other hand, is managed directly by the county. So in either scenario, though, someone's gonna have to foot the bill to get the engineering work done and get the initial project done.
Understand that.
So kind of to that point, I'm not really sure I see any of these, you'll look at the pockets of the well issues that Tamara gave out. I'm not really sure any of these areas we're looking at can do that initial work. So either way, whether it's a special service district or it's a county service district, the VOC is gonna need to pass a resolution.
So you're immediately going to county coffers to foot the bill to get the thing going.
I don't think we have to. I mean, if we have grants ahead of time or we have directed spending, whatever that be. I
The
think that
grant money could go to a separate entity.
it could. I mean, if we have this overarching, structure, whether it be a consortium or AJ, however we do it, I mean, we can pull the funding out of there. They can pay for the initial engineering work, but it's going to have to be the VOC that puts the resolution forward saying, hey, we're going to create this.
If we create one.
Yeah, that's correct. So this is just.
Or even if it's motivated by a neighborhood, they still have to ask the county to pass a resolution to put it to a vote.
Right, I mean, they could circulate a petition, but so when you go the petition route, you need to either have 100 signatures or 15% of the population within the proposed district sign on to it. But again, in that scenario, you've got to have the engineering work done. I guess the county or this consortium could do that ahead of time, give it to someone in the community and they can go circulate the
I think it just takes a lot.
documents. Yeah.
See, because what we would provide in that situation is we would provide the knowledge on how to go get those signatures, what needs to be done. We don't have to do it. And then we would contract with some group, I don't know, like Sawyer Drill Action or somebody, because they know them and say, okay, here it is. We'll contract with you. The consortium will contract with you to go out, get these signatures. You see, instead of just defaulting back to, okay, the county's doing this, the county's doing this, and I just see it. I just see it, top, going like, there's nothing wrong with like topsy. I mean, it's just pretty soon it's, okay, it's our project. We got people sitting out here pissed off because we're not doing it fast enough. We're only working with West Glen. We don't have enough money. We got to feed this thing. I just see it going that route, because this is a whole new area you open up that we've never done. We don't have a Department of Infrastructure, we don't, we just don't have it, but we do have this brain trust, finance, knowledge, and management.
Yeah, if I remember when we spoke before, thinking about this, you, Sheriff Syke, you talked to us, and if I remember correct, how I envisioned this wasn't that, it's almost like the consortium is getting other expertise there. Kind of that round table talking about this, coming to an agreement or trying to find solutions together where a group like maybe ends up being where one side says, hey, we need a utility or special, whatever it's called again. And we made a county, but something that proposal gets brought up and it's discussed with the consortium, the group saying, hey, how do we, is there a way we can tackle this area? And during the discussions, we have the 4 times infrastructure, we use, our expertise, we think, well, God, all right, well, the consortium's agreement, we think the best option here may be to do this district. We need to get signatures. Okay, well, let's work together. How can we help these folks gather signatures and maybe that becomes the county, but really, or not county, but under the county somewhat, however those work.
Yeah.
But it's all being filtered and discussed consensus through this consortium idea of like the path forward, where it's like there's not a one-time solution. But I think the idea of the politics is just like, oh, we're being on the brunt of it. It's saying, well, we're working together with other groups, other interests, and try to find an agreement on it. Just like the broadband, the idea is, you have some broadband action. I haven't been to the meetings. I remember when it first started, you had the other providers. You had like internet providers who normally would not be happy. I know that
We still have them there.
might not be happy, like, hey, this is we have right now, we're really good. I don't want to mess anything up, but it seems to be working, right? It seems to be working where.
That's why I use it as an example, it's working. We're on the verge of actually pulling wire, we're putting pipe in it, we're right there. And I mean, to me, that's success. I like success and I like to replicate it. I like to use it as an example somewhere else, and to me, it's doing infrastructure successfully. We got the plans, we got the money. How did that happen? And we got private entity, we got private money came in, we got federal money came in. We have Blue Mountain Networks at our meetings talking to us. How did this happen?
And it sounds like
you sit there and watch it go apart.
But it also sounds like something to have some of these partners. I think I remember when we talked about this work session, it was like the work session, of course, is the only way for commissioners to talk about this, right? Amongst yourselves to figure out which way. I mean, one commissioner might think, hey, it's a great idea, but the other two are like, no. And then maybe stops there, and that's what the work session is. We don't do this outside of it. This is how we have to discuss these matters. Why we're having a work session instead. So you can talk.
Say that again. I didn't
All right.
understand what you're talking about.
Getting back to the idea, like, what are we here for today? This work session? Well, because commissioners themselves, you guys can't talk amongst yourselves into to each other without a meeting. That's what this work session is. So we're bouncing these ideas off. And my thought was, what I imagine was going to happen afterwards, if there was an agreement saying, yeah, maybe this consortium idea is good. At that point, it's all right, here's a draft IGA, and then reaching out to the board. Because right now, we don't know if they're going to be on board. They might say, gosh, we can't do this. We don't want to.
We don't know.
This is that initial step of saying, hey, are we on the same page? All right, what's step 2? Step 2 is staff kind of doing IGA. Then maybe reaching out to the board saying, are you guys interested in being a part of this? They say no, or they say we can't.
Being a partner with it.
Be a partner with it.
Yeah, solving the water issue in Morrow County. That's where you put it. You don't go, hey, tag along with us. Or they go, yeah, good luck there, boys. Hope you luck, No, they just partner with us to get things done. See,
Correct.
Because they're an outfit that gets things done. You can call them whatever you want, but they know how to get stuff done, especially infrastructure. That's so special.
Correct. And I want to just bring that up, kind of stepping back a bit, say what's going on here, how I was thinking the work session is going to go. And just to bring that back and saying that's the way the commissioners can talk. You guys can see there's consensus. And then the next step is just seeing.
Are we getting out of bounds of this meeting?
No, not at all. I actually just want to paint the picture. I guess I'll just mention the reason some people might think, well, gosh, we're just talking. We want action. Like, well, for board of commissioners to talk amongst themselves, and information like this, when there's a quorum, it has to be through the public meeting, which is a work session, board of commissioner meeting, and that's why we're here. That's why we're hashing this out with the commissioners, because you guys kind of decide which path to go forward. If the consensus is hey, let's look into this consortium idea, maybe grab the idea, work on it, talk to the port. That'd be the next step. It's not all of a sudden, today it's like, here's the signed IGA, we are ready to go.
No,
Sign, that's
no,
not it.
that's what I
what
said at the beginning, I think you weren't here.
I wasn't here, by the way.
No, that we want to put together, I think groups, and I've seen it happen with us, when you come in with an idea or a plan, it's much better than just going in and verbally saying, oh, you know, we're thinking about doing this, or we're thinking about doing that. You know, have something together where the port and the county work as partners. But we've hashed it out here and we say, we want you to be partners with us. Here's the plan. Just, we can't control the board. They could say yes or no and go, okay, you don't want to help out, then don't. You know, then we move on and do whatever we're gonna do. You see, you know, so, and that's what I envision coming out of this meeting. Two things, a package to take to the board after the recall, because we might not be here. And then, you know, the new people can do whatever they want to do. So say, you know, I don't know what it doesn't matter. And then, and also coming out of this meeting is for Tamara to start thinking about if the state. And I read that, I don't know if you read that news or that story in the press about how she's getting pressure to get something done.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, pipe in the ground, let's use that.
That's a good point, man.
Is for Tamara to maybe, go back to her good contact, is to put something together and say, hey, give us a chance here, before you commit. Or before you know, put resources somewhere, we're working on a pipe in the ground proposal or group or entity or something, say. So you hold off, or, you know, see, that's what I'm hoping, you know. And what I know is get out in front of this, so we can become the ones that actually pull wire, put pipe in the ground. But
I apologize, I didn't miss, I listened some, I might have missed that part. I was just trying to wrap up.
no,
the
I'm
idea
not
again, what I was
I'm not
thinking.
trying to get everything detailed nailed down at IGA, no. I didn't even know how these guys felt about the county getting involved, at what level.
Yeah.
I don't know how the staff, they're the ones that have to do it. If Matt and Kevin don't wanna do it, we got no prayer. If they go, we don't wanna be part of the consortium, you guys go, it shouldn't be, it's dead, you know? So it's kind of a sales pitch here.
I think we're all on the same page, sure enough. That's all. Yeah.
And it might fail, but yeah, I just want to give it a shot, because like I say, I go back to the same old thing, I see it to our broadband, I see success, I like success. I like it when you quit talking about success. No, you just
Actually speak louder than words. Is that what it is? Oh. It's all right. Sorry.
We've all been talking a lot, I get it. No,
And
it's
that's what
funny.
we do,
We talk.
and the county provides the brain power of this thing. That's what we provide, the brain power and the legal and the financial and the knowledge and the management skills.
Mhm.
That's what we do. And I mean, that's what we know how to do to me. Okay. If you wanna start a new department called infrastructure, it's gonna go on and on and on, because there's a lot of solutions across the county. And like I said, maybe on the 23rd, the next group will want to do that. Yeah, I just want to get everybody kind of thinking about something, because I just don't wanna, I just hate to sit there and look at West Glen and say, okay, West Glen is one out. I don't want it to be about this, I want it to be about the whole county. I think you would do that.
Yeah, I don't think anybody wants to see us go fix West.
But you just say it over the.
That's not gonna do.
Okay, yeah.
And that was never our intent.
No, I know, yeah, I didn't think so, there's sometimes good to repeat it, so that.
And I
everybody
get it, because,
Uh-huh.
but it's the big apple at the top of the tree, right? It's the one that everybody's looking at, and there's people who aren't there who are going, well, what about me? And I get that, I hear that all the time,
Sure,
right? So,
well, you're next on the list, if you have something like this going, you should say, well,
Yeah.
you're in the queue. You know, rather than just.
and it may not be like I said, it may not be that West Glen is the first fix, right? If the money says, well, we can't afford to do West Glen, but we can afford to do a couple of these remote well places.
It's the beauty of removing it from
Yes,
politics.
no, I agree. No,
You're removing
I'm
it from
agreeing with
politics.
you.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I know, I'm just talking.
Yeah.
That's what we're doing, is,
Yeah.
I'm just talking. And, you know, you get adamant sometimes, but with another, you know. I don't-
It does look like all the attention is on West Glen. I know that's not necessarily productive. It's political and not productive. No. Yeah,
I just,
we
I
agree.
see a great opportunity here for something really important. And
And we were in the same boat a year ago with the project, because I was involved with it a year ago, right? And then you guys took off with it. You guys have done a great job of keeping it realistic.
what's happening?
What's happening? It's realistic.
We have to make tough choices.
Mhm.
There are places we have to say, no, we can't do that. It's too expensive. There's too few beneficiaries, and you know, and there were people that are threatening to recall us with non-purpose. And the decision not made on political decisions about people threatening us to do what they tell us to do. We were doing it on actually it was get the most people hooked up in that kind of our overreaching goal. The most people hooked up for the money that we have. We have a budget, and we want to get the most people hooked up to wireless that's possible. Not what somebody's yelling at us, but they're going to recall us if we don't do their house. You see, and that to me works good. We're right on the verge of getting some. We can show that, see? And it's gonna be, this is our first project, $3.5 million. Morrow County might get 40 million. Great project, up to 40, yeah. So it's our first one, and then we're gonna develop, you know, Nick, which is Matt's goal. Nick Green is the administrator. He's looking at the next project. And the next. We run out of money.
Or get some more.
Or get, you're right. That's right. That's something different. Exactly. Because when you show success, it breeds success. And it breeds funding because people know they're not.
No, they're not throwing the money.
You they make the right to tell their constituents, your money's getting something actually good.
And that would go a long ways with private industry.
Exactly. They love it because that's what they're used to. Getting stuff done. They love that. I mean, that's kind of my whole life, you know, I do private sector. I know that's what they want to do. Farmers, business people, they don't get students. Jeff, he's been in the private sector, right? You know, for like 11 guys, you know, good things done, right? Okay. All right. We kept saying I'm gonna shut up 10 minutes. I mean,
So, where would you like to go? I mean, at a work session, we can't create policy in that. We can give some direction to staff to help prepare. I mean, if the DOC is interested in the consortium, I mean, one of the things I would like to check with the EQ just to see if it does. I mean, the SCP, like I said, let's not trip over, you know,
$1 to pick up the dime.
yes, exactly. But working on it, I mean, we could proceed to the port with this framework and just discuss with them and then get together if they're open to the idea to hash out a crew agreement. If the DOC is of the mind to proceed in that, of course, at the same time, and Chair Sykes is saying, he says, man, if we do this, plan it for after the recall election. We don't want to get everything rolling and, you know, change of course. So we're looking more of the end of July, August kind of time frame for discussions with the board. But if we do want to start working on this, we'd love to start refining if necessary.
yeah, I don't think staff should spend a lot of time on it because, I mean, I think you should be thinking about it. That's what I mean, not.
How much time would it take you to reach out to DEQ?
And then did you understand what you're saying? See, not.
Yeah, paint the whole thing, not just like,
Yeah.
we want to just back to kind of paint the whole picture of what's going on here.
Yeah, and this is why if we get that money, we're gonna do good things with it. We're gonna actually get some stuff in the ground. So make sure they understand that part of, you know, not just, well, oh, yeah. Anyway,
I guess
what I'd like to see come out of it is I like legal Now, I'd like all of the staff to be thinking about, and then if we're still here after the recall, I would like me and Matt. Or Brian Matt to go to the court, either to to Lisa and Joe, talk to them first. Maybe that's the best way. Tell them what we got in mind, tell them we want to go in front of the court, present our plan, you know, but have a plan with ideas. If it, after the recall, then you can start putting things on paper, legal, and you know, and have it in front of the court, you know, written plan, you know. And at the same time, at that point, Tamara can reach out to the state and say, hey, you know, don't do, you know, if I read that news story correctly, she's wanting to do something. And we want to get to me in front of it and let her know that might be an opportunity, right? Is that, am I reading that wrong or not?
No, it's
it's
sort of vague,
better.
well,
Yeah, very.
it's pretty vague, but I could probably get a little more detail about it. I mean, Courtney would be.
If we're still here, that's what I'd like you to do. And then I would like everybody to be able to put something on paper. So me and Matt can either go to the full board, go to Lisa and Joe and ask them if we can go to the full board. Present our plan. If they say no, then we're back here. I don't think we should give up, but I think we ought to come back and take another look at how we separate politics from this whole thing. You know, and try to get something where we can make decisions on this based on, you know, money, hard figures, and I don't know if that's possible. I mean, the whole thing's like, but I see success with the problem, and I like to replicate something. So that's where I'd like to go. Does that make sense? Just start, get the wheels turning on it. Then, like I said, if we're back here on the 23rd, then we'll move forward with the hard copy.
Okay. Yep, sounds good.
Final words.
No, I think you're. Nobody's good.
Okay.
You're welcome.
You-